Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. And no, I'm not speaking Greek just because of our special guests. You know, I do this every single show. As legends go, they don't get much bigger than this ahead of a World Cup draw. Let's rock and roll, squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
And a big thank you to our audio listeners on Apple and Spotify and wherever you get your audio juice. Thanks for making us part of your day. The icon, the legend, returns to Squad Central. I'm stoked to have him here before Friday's World Cup draw. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Mr. Alexi Lalas.
Hey there. Oh, my goodness. By the way, you look wonderful. I love the Christmas tree behind you. You are in the Christmas mood, it looks like. So, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Alexi. And I'm just trying to keep up with your energy, you know, just trying to keep up with the Lalas energy because it is infectious.
You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. We live in interesting times, my friend.
We certainly do. We certainly do. And by the way, I thought you were great on TalkSport. I love those guys. They don't know how to take you, and it's just so epic. You know, the Brits, they're always so kind of, reserved and stuff. And, you go in guns blazing. I love it. It's brilliant.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it.
Well, you will be busy next summer. And these grand United States where we both live. And, what I love about this country is it develops sports icons like you and gives people like me the opportunity to come and live a great life and be able to cover the beautiful game. I honestly say to people, if it wasn't for Major League Soccer and the landscape here, I never would have been face to face with Beckham or Zlatan or Andrea Pirlo, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard talking to me about Sunday dinners in the Galaxy dressing room. That stuff doesn't happen, Alexi.
Well, it's a beautiful game for a reason, and it's a romantic game. Much more so, than just the actual kicking of the ball and the scores, like you mentioned, and the connections that you make, the experiences that you have. Look, I'm talking to you today because of what the sport has given me, and it's enabled me to travel the world, to see some incredible things. But I was a kid growing up in the 70s in the Midwest with a Greek father, and my parents named me Panayotis and recognized that wasn't going to work, sending me off to elementary school out there in the suburbs of Detroit. And, I found my way to playing in a World Cup and having these wonderful experiences, as you mentioned, because of the game. But it wasn't just the kicking the ball. It's all the wonderful friends, including you and so many people out there. And like I said, the things that I never would have done had I not found that ball at that day and fallen into this game.
It truly is what they mean when they talk about the football family. That's really, what it is and what it becomes in your life. And we've got a lot of US listeners and, they're excited for the World Cup. Before we talk about Friday and 2026, I had this image up, of course, at the start of the show. You laden in the stars and stripes with your teammates. And 94 is a World Cup, actually, that a lot of my friends revere and talk about quite a bit. The game here has changed significantly. But I love to go inside the dressing room when I have players like you here. And, we've had Warren Barton on the show and the great Bob Wilson. And a lot of players have been here on Squad Central. But to put the shirt on and represent your country. This is why I won't have people tell me the Champions League is bigger than the World Cup, Alexi.
Right.
Take us into that, in those moments, man.
Yeah, look, obviously there is a sense of pride and there's a sense of accomplishment. And, there's nothing bigger than a World Cup except a home World Cup. And, I think we've talked about this before. I'm here talking to you today because of the 1994 World Cup. Obviously, it was back in the previous century, a long time ago, back in the 1900s, and a lot of hair ago. You weren't even born, by the way, you and your friends. I don't
Oh,
know.
yes, I was.
Well, anyway, it was a long time ago. It seems like yesterday, but evidently it was a long time ago. And the world was different. Obviously, our soccer world in the United States was different. But I lived that power, and it changed my life forever. But more importantly, it changed the way that our country, thinks about the game. And it was a seminal moment, as was, by the way, a few years later, the 1999 Women's World Cup. Really two flagpole type of moments in terms of the development and the respect of the game. And that's why I'm so excited about what's coming this next summer, because it's yet another opportunity. But the world is now coming back to a fundamentally changed American soccer landscape. And we've talked about this before. Don't let anybody tell you that we're not a soccer playing nation or we're not a soccer culture. I will put fans, I will put media, I will put players, I will put coaches, I will put administrators that are in American soccer up against anybody in the world. Yeah, that's a little different, and yeah, we do things in a unique way, but it is as vibrant and robust and educated and discerning as anybody out there.
Yeah, I agree. And we had Harksey on the show a couple of months ago, and we were talking about the same thing, that there's still this grand misconception. And also, with Carly, when I've talked to Carly and interviewed her, like the way in the women's game, it's evolved, it's changed. The goal was to catch the US women, to beat the US women, to compete, with the US women. Now you've got, the US men's team, lots of talent playing in Europe as well. But I just want to circle back to what you're saying, because when I first moved here, I remember being in my apartment in Sherman Oaks, and I had a TV, still no flat screens at that time. And it was a couple months before 9/11 that I actually moved here. And I was so excited about, the next journey in my career and my life. And I remember the key was, where am I going to watch the football? And it was Fox, and Max Bretos.
Yeah, the Fox Soccer Channel. It was like a 24/7 soccer channel. It was like comfort food for all of us soccer people. You didn't even have to watch it sometimes, and sometimes the games that you were watching were from all over the world. But it was just kind of like a radio. You put it on in the background, and you always had soccer going.
Exactly. And now you've got ESPN, Fox, Paramount Plus, and as much as MLS has grown, and we'll get to that in a little bit, I feel like the game in Europe and the insatiable appetite for soccer helped. Don't you think, Alexi, like the coverage of Fox moving into the coverage, and ESPN and Bundesliga and Premier League, Serie A, La Liga?
It's been incredible. So if you look at these types of moments in terms of the development and that change of the landscape, you can point to, obviously MLS, and from a women's perspective, all the different leagues that have now, finished up here with what hopefully is going to be an NWSL. It's going to last a long time. You also look at, obviously, the internet. You also look at even, the FIFA game in terms of educating an entire generation. But then it's the streaming. And as you know, sometimes people will come over and visit the US, and they're so impressed and jealous of the amount of soccer that we are able to see on a consistent basis. And now we can get it in the palm of our hand. But what it's done is, again, it's educated and exposed an entire generation to soccer from all over the world. And that's a good thing. It also brings up, some challenges when you're constantly comparing and contrasting, and maybe more so than any country out there. We do this compare and contrast with the rest of the world, and sometimes we don't end up, on the right side of that compare and contrast. But it's important because we are playing the world's game. We are part of that global game. Yes, we might do it a little bit differently here on and off the field, but we want to be part of that, and so you got to live up to that. And so whether it's MLS or NWSL or anybody else, that compare and contrast is going to continue on. And as you know, traditionally, Americans love winners. Americans love to be the best in everything. And when it comes to the men's side of the game, and the men's national team in particular, and just men's soccer, relative to the comparison around the world, it hasn't been the best. I'm not saying that it can't be, but that's what you have to live up to with all of that attention and all of that literally in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, that was one of the things I really fell in love with a lot here, where I had friends, and it's like my partner and I grew up so differently. She grew up in Idaho. I grew up in London, in a city. her dad taught her to, go jump over the fence and see what's on the other side. My Greek dad was like, "Oh, don't jump over the fence, you'll die." You know what I mean? And there's this attitude that I love about, you grow up and anyone could be president of the United States, or you grow up in sports it's so different. Like I'd play soccer in school and there'd be like 2 people on a soggy Wednesday night, and here that we live near a school and you can hear Friday Night Lights. I just love what is instilled in you kids from a young age, Alexi, culturally.
Yeah, I think it's aspirational, and I'm sure that people would argue that it's American exceptionalism. But with that American exceptionalism, I think comes an expectation, and does come that aspiration to be the best, or at least to strive to be the best, and to demand the best, even when you're not the best, and that's okay. But I think it also goes back to your point, and a fundamental tenet, and something that I love about our country is that we feel that we can do anything. There is not anything out of the realm of possibility, whether it's on the soccer field or not. And these moonshot types of things that we do, this country and this culture was built on doing things that people say can't be done or haven't been done in the past. And I love that about our country. I hope we never lose that. And again, this is not to say that can't exist in other countries, but fundamentally, that's what the United States has been about since its inception. And I think it has manifested in so many different ways, including in the sports world, and in many good ways. But again, it also goes back to that compare and contrast, because when you don't live up to it, there is almost a kicking of us that we should be better. And, we love to kick ourselves as an American soccer playing nation about what we haven't done on and off the field. Sometimes we also have to take a little step back and pat ourselves on the back, because if you look at how fast the game has grown both on and off the field, it's unprecedented when you put it up against any other country out there, especially with the unique aspects of the United States.
Yeah. There's always fear mongering as well before a World Cup. I remember it before South Africa. I remember it before Russia and Qatar. And here we are with, the media loves a little fear mongering, before any major big tournament. I keep saying to my friends and my family, come on, guys, if you do things the right way, you will come here and it will be the time of your life, as it will for anyone who goes to Canada to watch games, or Mexico to watch games as well, Alexi. You're a big part of this World Cup in so many different ways. And Friday is the draw.
Yep.
What the misconceptions that are going on right now, and your message to fans who are watching this, Arsenal fans and other fans we got listeners from Australia and China and Sierra Leone and Italy and the UK. What would your message be to them?
Well, my message is that for the summer of 2026, relative to the World Cup, we are open for business. I'm here in New York right now, and then tomorrow I'm going to go down to DC for the draw, and then, by the way, continue on down to Miami for MLS Cup down there. There's a lot of soccer going on, but the reality is that when it comes to next summer, I think of 2 words: responsibility and opportunity. Obviously, the opportunity is in this stage from a soccer perspective to bring a whole lot of people into the tent, but also from an American opportunity, it's to put on a show and to almost kind of write, direct, and film a commercial for the world. And you're hoping that it's going to be positive. We're going to have a lot of people that are going to come over. You're going to have a blast. You're going to see America, what I feel is the greatest country in the world, through the lens of that World Cup. You're going to have a World Cup summer vacation. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be memorable. It's going to be safe. And that is where the responsibility comes in. This is on our watch. It's my responsibility. It's your responsibility. It's President Trump's responsibility. It's all of our responsibility to make sure that this goes off. And it is the most kick-ass advertisement, not just for soccer in the United States, not just for the World Cup, but for the United States and Mexico and Canada in their own way doing it for themselves over there. But I just, when I talk to people, don't not come because of the things that you're hearing. You're going to be fine. You're going to have a really, really good time. And I think you're going to go away with a greater appreciation for not just the soccer culture in the United States, but the culture of the United States.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so the draw is, I remember not last year, the year before, when Arsenal came to play in the MLS All-Star game. And the backdrop of DC, it was after living here for so long, it was the first time I actually got to DC. And it is just stunning. Like, America is young in its history, but that city is like a movie set backdrop. I remember when they were doing the training and the monument. What's the tall monument called?
The Washington Monument.
The Washington Monument. Wayne Rooney didn't want to train there, but I'm not sure Wayne wanted to do much in the heat. But it is a spectacular backdrop. What can we expect from Friday? What are you guys at Fox going to be involved in? And talk us through that a little bit.
Right. Well, so first off, I want to echo your comments. My mom lives in DC, and I go there often. It never gets old, and it does, instill an incredible pride in your country when you see this. Yes, it's a relatively young history, but it is a history, and it is on display. And when you're walking from the Capitol to the Lincoln Memorial, the monument of the White House, the Vietnam Memorial, all of these different things. Not to mention the incredible amount of museums. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful city. And so it's really going to be interesting. Friday, 11:30 a.m. When it comes to the East Coast on Fox. We're going to give you 3.5 hours of the draw show. And listen, this is not your parents' draw show anymore. Okay, so we're going to have, we'll have, celebrities. There will be obviously legends of the game. There will be musical numbers. I'm sure there's going to be some comedy. It's going to be some politics because it's in D.C. at the Kennedy Center and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, what I'm saying is, whether you're into soccer or not, you tune into Fox and watch this draw. You're going to have a good time. You're going to be entertained. It will be an extravaganza in terms of the entertainment out there, and that's kind of what FIFA wants with the draws. So it's not just a bunch of guys in suits just sitting around. Now, there will be the angst, and there will be the camera pans to coaches and delegations of incredible disappointment, and then other ones that are just sitting there looking like they ate the canary because they got themselves a good group. There will be a group of death. There will be a lot of permutations, as we know. It's a little bit confusing, but ultimately, people are going to stick their hands into these bowls, bring out those ping pong balls, and we're going to have a whole better idea of who's playing who and some of those pathways to the final.
Alexi, the US men's national team, has been on this topsy-turvy journey, maybe since Jurgen Klinsmann, left his tenure. Berhalter, I thought did a great job. I mean, it's undeniable. He won tournaments. There was, of course, then, some major issues there. And then, the federation pivots and goes to Pochettino. The players loved Berhalter. Now you've got this new culture. Do you think that it was a mistake to make that change ahead of this World Cup, knowing the relationship between Berhalter and the players, or do you think Poch is the right guy to lead the US into this tournament?
I think that it was the right move to make a change when they did, because if you felt that there was any danger of failing at the World Cup, again, a home World Cup, I think it's your responsibility to do everything in your power to make a change. I also think, yes, the players love Greg Berhalter, but why did they love him? This was a coach that, basically coached many of these players from their teenage years. And the player that you are, the person that you are, is very, very different when you get into your 20s. And so that dynamic inevitably has to change. And so so the advantage that Pochettino has coming in is that he can come in and say, there's a new sheriff in town. He has none of that baggage. Sometimes it's a good type of baggage to have if I'm talking about Berhalter, but he gets to throw all of that out. I was just listening to Pochettino talk on the other side of town. I'm here in New York, on the other side of town. And it was really interesting in the way that he talked about the fact that, Poch does not speak great English, but you have the different bits that you get from him. But I was sitting there and I found myself nodding. And I don't agree with everything that Poch has done. I do think we're in a better place right now, and I'm starting to see some method to the madness out there. He's being paid $6 million. Ultimately, all that's going to matter is what happens next summer. But I love the fact that he is kind of saying, the national team is not an afterthought. And for my generation, it never was. And this isn't me grumpy manning it. It's just the reality is that we needed the national team to create opportunities for us, as opposed to this generation that plays a lot of great places, that make a lot of money. And Poch has come in and said, you know what? I don't care where you play. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care who you're dating. I don't care any of that. All right. I care that you show that you care when you put on that shirt, win, lose, or draw. It doesn't matter. And I think he has also instilled a pride and a ruthlessness that might have gone away. And that's not a shot against Greg Berhalter or against the previous cycle. It's just, that's what the team, I think, has become, because as we've grown as a soccer playing nation, what the national team means, the men's national team, has changed a little bit. And so might be a course correction that we need. But as we know, in America, it's about results. And so next summer, look, we've been to plenty of World Cups, for men's World Cups. We've gotten out of groups. That's nothing new. We've even won groups. That's nothing new. So they have to, Pochettino and company have to do things that we haven't seen before. I don't know what that ultimately looks like. I tell people it's like the Supreme Court and obscenity, right? I can't tell you what it is, but I know it when I see it. You will know it and you will feel it when this team is successful, because you will see a team on that field and you go, that is awesome. The score, yeah, that's important, but that is awesome. I am connected to that. That produces emotion and passion in me. And ultimately, I'm proud that those guys on that field are representing my country.
And it's like you said in 94, it's not just putting on the shirt and playing in the World Cup. When you're in a home World Cup, man, if you can't get galvanized by that, then you shouldn't be playing the sport. But I really want the US to do so well. I want them in the knockout stages. The home, no matter where it is, you want the home team to go as deep into the tournament as possible. A couple more for you here on the World Cup, and one in particular is Pulisic still the most important player for the US men's national team?
I think he's the most important in that what he does actually on the soccer field, others can't do. And I think when all is said and done, he's well on his way to becoming the best American male soccer player in history with what he is doing. Now, but I think that there are plenty of other players that are going to be important in terms of leadership. I mean, Christian Pulisic is a reluctant leader, and that's okay. He can lead by example out there on the field, but he's not a rah-rah guy. He's not that type of leader where the things that he does are going to motivate others around him. Again, that's not a knock on him. I think he'd be the first one to admit that's not quite who he is. But you definitely need him on the field, and I expect him to be there. Knock on wood, he doesn't have any injuries. He's kind of come out of that a little bit, although he's injured right now, and that's a good thing. Maybe his body, as it's grown, has a better understanding of what it is. But I think Pochettino is going to expect the same, or maybe even more, of someone like Christian Pulisic. The interesting thing with Pochettino, though, is this whole crop of players that have come up from kind of nowhere, because he has kind of widened the field and said, I don't care where you come from. And you see, you're talking about Sebastian Berhalter, Diego Luna, Christian Roldan, these types of players, Max over there on that left-hand side, and all these players, and they're going to make the team. They're going to make the team, and they are going to be at some point on the field. So there might be people that we're not necessarily focused on right now that ultimately use that platform next summer at the World Cup to become stars.
Yeah, those will be the unsung heroes. Take out the players who are known and playing in Europe. You can't win, you can't get deep without those unsung heroes that will come through. If I was going to ask you for the weak spot that worries you, is it goalkeeper? Is it the defense? Is there someone who can match and be by Chris Richards? Like, what's your take on the defense and the weak spot?
So first off, you mentioned Chris Richards. I think he could be a real star next summer, both in terms of his play, and I just think in terms of his personality. There has been, speaking of ruthlessness, there has been a ruthlessness that has now crept into the game. That's a good thing, but I just hope he doesn't lose that smile, which is wonderful. He's got a great story. I think America will fall in love with someone like him. Yeah, I am worried about goalkeeping, and as you know, traditionally, that's kind of a position we haven't had to worry about, and yet we have Matt Freese, who kind of took over for Matt Turner, who took over from Zach Steffen. And, in the past, we have had goalkeepers. Goalkeepers have to make the saves that you're supposed to make. But the great goalkeepers we have in the past have made the saves that they're not supposed to make. And that's going to keep you in a game. That's going to get you that point or secure that win going forward. And I don't think that Matt Freese has gotten to that level where I'm confident that that's what he can do. But it seems like he's won over Pochettino, and he's the number one right now. Now, who joins Chris Richards, and is it old man Tim Ream, or is it other guys out there? It's going to be interesting. Back 4, back 3, back 5, whatever ends up happening, because over the last couple of windows, they kind of switched now, and I think it's worked out better. Up top, we always talk about goal scoring. I think Balogun is kind of settled as the starter, although I was talking to my brother the other day, and he was adamant that he thinks that ultimately Pepe is going to be the starter for the national team. And he's not alone. There's other people there. So Pepe might have a say. We know he's scored, and now he's getting physically he's back to where he needs to be. So then that's a good thing. These are all, as Tata Martino would say, these are champagne problems. When we have a bunch of guys that are healthy and scoring goals, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Do we know where the states are going to be playing their games yet, or do we find that out on Friday too?
Yeah, so the United States has already been put in Group D, and Group D will play their first game at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, second game up in Seattle, and third game back at SoFi. And what FIFA has tried to do is kind of regionalize the groups so there's not a tremendous amount of traveling. Now, after you get out of the group, you're going to get on the road and you're going to go different places. But what we're going to find out on Friday is who those other 3 teams are in Group D. And that's going to be really fun. And like I said, that's when it gets real, and Pochettino and all the coaches then the wheels start turning. Okay, I think we got a point here. I think we can beat this team here. Or what history do we have? Or what are our strengths and weaknesses? All that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of bummed the final's not at SoFi Stadium. Of course, I'm saying that because I'm a SoCal girl, and the stadium's unbelievable. But
it is awesome.
It's so amazing. Okay, let me get one more from you before you go. Expectations. What's a good World Cup for? You're probably getting asked this like crazy on your media tour of New York here, but what would make you happy? I mean, as I know you're a winner, like let's go for it. Let's just try and win it. Why not?
Yeah.
That would be an insane history.
When I
know
say
what your fear is. I know what your fear is. Your fear is England winning the World Cup in America.
Okay. I tried not to mention it the whole show here, but you brought it up. So you opened the door. Okay. Listen, I as much as it pains me to say this, England's a really good team. Okay. And at some point they're going to get it together and they're going to win another men's World Cup. I just cannot have it happen on our turf over here. It cannot be coming home in the summer of 2026 on our shores. Do it later. Do it the next World Cup. All right. I cannot abide by that, but they're a really good team. It's going to be fun to see them going forward, but within reason. When it comes to the U.S. team, as I mentioned, I think you'll know it when you see it. But again, keep in mind, going to a World Cup, not a big thing. Getting out of your group, not a big thing. Winning a group, not a big thing. Even going to the round of 16, we have done that. So I think getting to the round of 16 and then doing things that we haven't seen before, which is beating a team that the consensus is better than you. And, you're going to need a little bit of magic like anybody in a World Cup, and you're going to need a little belief, and you're also going to need some momentum. And that comes from the home World Cup and people jumping on board, getting into that soccer tent and just celebrating their country through the lens of the World Cup. That's hopefully what I see.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. Like, I have to ask you, because it would be remiss of me not to, a massive game in US soccer this coming weekend. I love covering Major League Soccer. You mentioned it at the top of the show. I really don't like this comparison of, that's MLS. And I love it for what it is. Mm-hmm. And I actually said to some of my mates, when I go back home and I watch Premier League games, I'm like, let me take you to St. Louis. Let me take you to LAFC. Let me take you to Columbus. And also, even, the team I cover the most, LA Galaxy, on the title winning last season. Let me take you to some of these places, down to Miami now as well. The atmosphere, the culture, it is so, so cool. And I remember asking Kamish Dongarba last year when Inter Miami didn't make it to the final. And I asked him, I'm like, is it actually a good thing that they didn't? Because it just shows you that even though you bring Messi into play, they couldn't get past a certain round. And you've got like the 5-star LA Galaxy, the heritage, the history there. But he's finally made it to the final, and Inter Miami are going to be facing Thomas Müller's Vancouver Whitecaps, which I think is a great story this season, Alexi. What Müller versus Messi? Take a shot every time you hear that.
Oh my goodness. I'm really excited for this final because, as you mentioned, two very, very good teams and arguably two of the most deserving teams in terms of consistency of play, but also in a very, very different way. And don't think for a second that this is, Messi's to lose. This Vancouver team, they know exactly who they are and who they aren't. You mentioned Müller coming in, which I think has been an inspired signing. And I love the way that he has not just embraced Major League Soccer, but embraced Vancouver, embraced that, and in turn, that city has embraced him. But more importantly, it has resulted in a really, really good team that doesn't fear anybody. We already saw what they did when they went down to San Diego. We'll see what happens when they go to Miami. I'll be down there. On the other side, the boys in pretty in pink over there. By the way, and I'm not making fun of it. I love what they have done with that brand and the aesthetic. It's very awesome. Clever. It's just awesome. I do think that leagues need villains. I do think that there will be as many people that are tuning in to see Messi and company fail that will tune in to support them because, this is like Black Hat and this is a team that spent a lot of money, obviously very sexy in terms of the names and all that kind of stuff. But to your point, and sometimes explaining to people around the world about the unique aspects of Major League Soccer and the manufactured parity and therefore the competition, it's almost at times it's more impressive if and when you are able to find that little last bit of juice that gets you over the top. And I know you've been covering the league for a long time and you've seen it grow. 30 years, 30 teams. It's pretty awesome how quickly and how far it has come since back in 1996 when the league kicked off. And I'll finish it with this. We do not have a monopoly on crap soccer. It is played every day in every country around the world. And as a matter of fact, some of the places that people around the world would look down their nose at, whether it's leagues or teams or venues or something like that, if and when you introduce them, they go, wow, I didn't realize that it was like this. So again, don't ever apologize as an American soccer fan for what we are or what we aren't for that matter. And just bring them in and say, hey, look, this is what you're missing because you're snobby elitist out there in the way that you look down your nose at Major League Soccer.
Exactly. I reckon Inter Miami and would thump Wolves right now in a match tomorrow. Okay,
hey, listen. Let me ask you a question before I get out of here. Yeah. When it comes, because I was just I was speaking of Talk Sport and everything. I was talking to them today. Arsenal from a men's side, do they have enough to sustain this through the end of the year, or are they going to at some point turn around Arteta and company and go, oh, God, we have that sinking feeling. We can feel it coming.
Well, Manchester City let 4 goals in. They were 5-1 up against Fulham, and the score ended up being 5-4 tonight, right? They're probably an injury away in Haaland from not being able to compete as they would like. I think this is and has to be our year. Every time someone asks me that, I keep thinking of Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday, right, where he talks about fighting for the inches. Arsenal have to fight for those inches and never let go. And ordinarily we like being the hunter, not the hunted, but we've done enough in the transfer window now. There's no excuses. Our thing, Alexi, is proving we can close. Right. It's like Alec Baldwin in Glengarry Glen Ross. Yeah. Always be closing. Can we do that? And and when the spotlight's on us, it's all well and good being top of the league now, but in March and April, who are we and who are we going to be?
Yeah, but it's one thing to always be closing, but Arteta's never closed. And so if he does not close, is it enough? Is it enough to make a change? Because you can say, well, I mean, it's one of the elite teams and they're just almost there, which in and of itself certainly deserves praise, but if it's not about winning the league, then what the hell are we doing here?
If we
Arsenal,
don't win,
there's other teams that can look at it differently, but this Arsenal team, you mentioned the money that they spent, the talent that they have, it's about winning the league, right?
To me, sports is about winning, and absolutely. I come from a history of watching my team win. If he doesn't win the title and we lose out by a point, is it fair to sack him? I can't see that happening. I don't think the Cronkies would do that. If we end up 4th and we don't win the title, then you have to look at is he the guy that can really make up those inches? So for me, at the end of the season, we'll find out how close we are. Hopefully we win it. But if we fall away, which with this team, that would be a disaster. That would be major, major disaster. And I think a surprise to a lot of Arsenal fans around the world.
Well, so. I would like to see you do it. It's, like you said, I mean, just almost there, bridesmaid all the time, never the bride, all that kind of stuff. But the mind works in mysterious ways, and you get closer and closer there. You start thinking about it, and those wheels start turning. But like you said, it's ultimately about those inches.
Yeah. Listen, I have to ask you for a prediction. You were the man who was part of the group that brought David Beckham to LA Galaxy. I remember that stage, the pomp and circumstance, the confetti on that day. Does he become the player owner MLS champ? How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think they find a way. I mean, like I said, this Vancouver team is good, but David's going to be fine whether they win or not.
Of course.
But I do actually, they deserve a tremendous amount of praise. I'm saying David Beckham and the Moss brothers, obviously, for what they have done and what they have created, and maybe in a certain sense, and not just signing Messi, but pushing MLS into that next frontier. I talk about super clubs all the time, and I have since back in the day when it came to the LA Galaxy. And you have your good times and your bad times. The brand of the Galaxy is still fine and well and going on. But you want to win, and you are expected to win. You're expected to be one of the elites when you're the Galaxy. And obviously, things haven't gone well recently. But I expect them to get back and to give you and others out there the type of team that they have come to expect.
Yeah.
So
we need another star, Alexi. I think LA Galaxy's always been about. I mean, you've got Son at LAFC now. You've got Müller in Vancouver. You've got the talent. I know Busquets and Alba are retiring. I'm sure they'll do more to bring Messi, more stars and stuff. But LA Galaxy, they need it.
I don't want a safe Galaxy. I want a Galaxy that shoots the moon. I want the Galaxy that does big, bold, dare I say, arrogant things. That's what the Galaxy brand has been built on. So bring that back to me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, listen, you can find Alexi at Alexi Lalas, and the World Cup draw, if you're in the States, is on Fox and starts at 11:30. Did you say Eastern?
11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox. Like we said, 3.5 hours. We'll go into all of the details, but we'll also talk about all the entertainment. Before I let you go, I just let me say how awesome you are at what you do. You're really, really good at what you do. You bring a joy, and when you talk about not just the game, but when you talk about the game relative to your life, you can see the humanity, you can see the passion. Like I said, you can see the joy that it is brought. And so it's an absolute honor and pleasure to come on the show, to talk to you, whether I'm on the show or not, because you bring a spark and a life that I love in people, whether it's through soccer or not. So thank you for doing that on a continual basis. And I hope your listeners and your viewers recognize how good they have it with you.
Oh, Alexi, you just made my day. Thank you so much. That's so kind. And I appreciate you. I know that it's a manic week, but whenever I text you, you're always so gracious. And I always say he's one of the most misunderstood men out there. Let me just tell you, this guy is a teddy bear with a shotgun. I absolutely love it. And is Carly going to be with you guys on Friday?
She's not coming down to this, but no, Carly will be involved going forward.
Okay.
And I love Carly.
Give her a hug,
Oh my God, I love her so much.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And she's just getting better and better as the years go on. So it's wonderful. Now she's got a family and everything. So a wonderful woman, obviously an incredible soccer player, but more importantly, just an incredible woman.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Alexi, at Squaddies. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. And we appreciate Alexi, and good luck to the USA in the World Cup and everyone else's team as well, but maybe not as much as England.
Let's do it. Yes, us.
Yes, us.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.